Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for frame rate is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Frame Rate is brought to you by Ford, featuring available sync with My Ford Touch. Sync with My Ford Touch gets you to your destination with integrated turn-by-turn directions and directional arrows displayed on screen. Check it out in the new 2012 Ford Focus and at Ford.com/technology. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 20% off your new account for 6 months, go to Squarespace.com and use offer code FRAMERATE11. It's Frame Rate. Welcome to a very special edition of Frame Rate. Episode 52.
Your music.
Kill the music. Kill the music. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, and there's too much wind in this episode. We had to stop the music because it was infringing on all the awesome we were trying to pack into this episode of Frame Rate.
As you see, we have a packed house of guests joining us up from Los Angeles in person for the first time on the show. Jay Sperling-Reich from Showbiz Sandbox.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's great. I mean, we're separated
By a chair, but
Nicole Carrico.
virtually. We're virtually separated.
But it's fantastic to have you on the show as well, Nicole. Former tech TVer, AOL, HBO. She's been around the web end of this business a lot. So we're gonna milk her brain.
Oh, that sounds dangerous at that.
Did you say
it's great
milk
to be
her brain or melt her brain? Because I think one's more socially acceptable than the other.
I think we'll do both.
That's
But
so
first-
acceptable.
Exactly. But yeah, so Nicole, before we actually get into the big story, I wanted to just chat with you briefly about web video, because we are constantly going over the idea of, like, why aren't the studios out there commissioning better original content for the web? Why aren't they putting good episodic content on the web? And you've been in the position of trying to make them do that at certain points. Why don't they do that?
Well, I think you addressed a couple of different questions there. One is, why are they not creating original content for the web? And I think there was a real innate resistance to directing television creative talent towards digital. It wasn't as immediately evident how to monetize it. I think there was a belief that you could put anything online and it would function as web video. I won't
That's
tell you
what
which
Brian and I believe, which is why we do the show.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't tell you which television network I was at, but it was one of them that said, well, if we're doing a web series, why don't we just pass out flip cams and, take some found video, and surely that will be sufficient. This is an Emmy Award-winning programming executive. So
was that being sarcastic, or that was a real suggestion?
that was a very literal suggestion.
Oh, my God.
And that was last year. That wasn't an eternity ago. So I think we're starting to see a commitment from the networks and from programming executives to really invest in web video. And then we get into the different question of how to make successful web video. It's a different animal. It is not television. And I think that's something that we're all still learning how to do. And that part of the business, I think you're starting to see some highlights, and we're starting to have some fun with.
Plus, they're having trouble making good shows for television, let alone good shows for the web.
Right?
So
That's
the
an
same thing is
important
true
note.
of movies.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an article in the New York Times, I think it was, or no, USA Today the other day about how, Hollywood has finally seen the light with 3D, that it's not the savior because of two films, Conan the Barbarian, and there was some other remake that they cited, both of which were horrible films and both of which probably did not need to be made. And so using those two as examples was probably a mistake. But
Yeah.
poor content.
Well, poor content, poor quality content often is seen as getting all the money and all the development and all the ad dollars, and good content and things that could be made so much better don't. They just because there's a prejudice against stuff that's being done independently on the web, do it yourself. I mean,
Right. Well, much like direct-to-DVD films are not seen as theatrical motion pictures.
right. Yeah, there's a stigma
yeah.
around it. Exactly. Can you imagine? Well, actually, you don't even have to imagine it. You can see the Guild now getting money and what they're doing with it versus that first year when Felicia was just sort of relying on the kindness of others to throw together, the best that she could. Not that it was a bad series at all, but
no, but the production value.
Yeah, just think of all the opportunities she has to expand the story.
Absolutely, and the production value alone, and the number of locations, and how long they can shoot each episode and edit it. I completely agree with you.
Now, Brian, something I want to do, I haven't even talked to you about this, but with the International Academy of Web Television Awards coming up in January, I want to, once they announce their nominations, which will happen in early December, I want to start highlighting some of the good web series out there that we don't hear about as often. Everybody always talks about the Guild, which is great. Yeah. But there's some other web series out there. Nicole, I see you nodding. Do you have examples maybe off the top of your head of stuff that doesn't get some of the attention it should?
I think if you look at Maker Studios, working out of Los Angeles, I know they've got to deal with YouTube now, but I think have done a number of different sort of short form video series that are really worth watching and that are getting some traction. But they're in the unique position of having independent video producers that are working in their native format. These are web video producers for the most part. These aren't, television producers who are suddenly working on web that were then joined with ad dollars. And I think when you start to get budget in the hands of people who have actual experience creating and producing video content for web is when you start to see the magic happen. And
so
getting access to those. Go ahead.
I do want to say two things real quick. First of all, I love the idea of showcasing and highlighting really good web content, especially, award-winning stuff, because I think there is a massive public relations problem that still needs to be overcome with the way people perceive web video. And it's partially alleviated by the fact that Hulu has legitimized watching. It used to be like 4 years ago, if you were watching a movie on your computer, that meant you were pirating it, right? Or if you were watching TV on your computer, it was piracy. So there was the piracy issue, and then there was a quality issue that, of course, the perception was YouTube was nothing but 100%, dogs vomiting on skateboards or whatever. And so there's a PR problem with television. But to what Nicole was saying, I think we're going through the proper growing pains for where we are right now. When broadcast television first began, nobody knew what television was going to become. So they started with what they knew. They took their radio stars and they put them on TV. You got some really unattractive people and some bad television presence. And out of that emerged what makes for good television medium. And I think we're seeing that again because we don't know what the internet is. We don't know the way people consume internet television yet, and so we're doing our best guesses. And for the studios, that means starting off pretending it's TV, and it's not TV, and they're figuring that out. And this is all good and right, and it's the way we're going to mature into a proper medium, recognized. Because already anyone under 20 doesn't have that weird stigma, that weird stink of internet television. They see it as just another form of communication.
Yeah, taking radio people, putting them on TV, whether they should be or not, and having them read their own ads as testimonials. It's a horrible model, Brian.
Right.
It's a mistake I can't believe anyone ever made, frankly. I mean, thank God we've learned from that one.
Thank God we've moved so far. Let's move on to the big story.
What's my territory?
This just in, the big story.
I am so pleased. It's such a big story. We have to play the theme song twice. Jeez. Arrested Development is coming back, and it's thanks to the internet. Netflix has commissioned 10 new episodes with the original cast that will not air till 2013, but they will be on Netflix on demand.
First of all, this is brilliant. The big news, of course, is number one, we've heard over and over and over again that people are saying they want it, and then people are saying that they're going to do it or they think they're going to do it. Maybe there's a deal in the works. And now finally we have an announcement with a capital A from Netflix saying we are doing this. Money is committed. We are in public in front of our shareholders saying this is happening. And the funny part for me was I told my wife, and she was so unimpressed. You're like, wait, haven't they announced that like 20 times? And I'm like, well, no, those weren't really announcements. That was goodwill and people really saying that they think this time it's going to happen. And
rumors and
Well, that was somebody at Netflix trying to leak it out so that there would be some buzz behind it so that some executive somewhere would go, oh, maybe it is a good idea. Maybe we should do this. Look at how much attention this show is getting. That's exactly what wound up happening there.
And I'll tell you, that's the other big part of this story is the word exclusive. I cannot, I mean, this is, first of all, we've seen Netflix commit the money for House of Games, and obviously they're going for
House of Cards.
Or whatever, House of Gaming Cards. Card Games.
Card Games, but yes.
It's going to be called House of Cards. And we've seen them commit the money, and so we've seen them take these steps. But that's all, I don't know, this is all speculative, that we can create a new property that can stand alongside established television properties to full-on take a very beloved, universally considered canceled before its time gem from network television and to get it exclusively through a network provider. This is what will be remembered. Even though I don't think this is a right way to put it, this is what will be remembered as when Netflix became a provider, a broadcast network, essentially.
A competitor with HBO.
Well, yeah. You don't think it was when they bought House of Cards, right?
Yeah.
House of Cards.
It's a political thriller.
Right.
But
Card 27. No, I don't, because, I mean, I think that is when it actually happened, but it will not be what it's remembered for. That's what I think was the brilliance of this play, is because when we announced Game Card 7, The Revenge of the Card Skater, nobody was really excited about it until you mentioned like Kevin Spacey. They're like, oh wait, I know that name. But whereas this, this was ripples through the internet, and I can't remember what celebrity said it, but the tweet was, wait, so we like Netflix again? I'm confused.
It's just nice to see them announcing something that isn't a rate hike.
Exactly. This is the instant flip of the switch that all of a sudden got all of the internet to be back on board with Netflix.
Now they are renaming Arrested Development Quarested Quick Development. But other than that...
But unfortunately, they didn't have the Twitter handle for that.
They're splitting it into two different shows. One Arrested.
One is just being developed for later.
One's just in prison, and the other one just takes place at the model home.
No. I think this is... I think what we're going to see in 2013 is going to be really exciting because we'll have House of Cards, we'll have Arrested Development. There's actually two other shows, and I can't think of them off the top of my mind right now. One is a mystery show. I think it's a Scandinavian-created mystery show.
Oh, yes, it's from Norway. With Little Steven is in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Lillehammer.
Thank you, Lillehammer. I'll try to remember that. Olympics. Think Olympics.
Yeah.
And there's another one out there as well. So in 2013, we're going to see Netflix come out and say, we have a lineup of shows. Can they survive until then, Nicole? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here on a couple of points, although I completely agree with Brian that this is a PR coup for them. It's phenomenal from a repositioning of the brand perspective. And also, I think it will be remembered as the moment that they became a channel and a broadcast provider. But the internet doesn't always know what it wants. The internet made a whole lot of noise about snakes on a plane, and no one went and bought tickets to see it in the theater.
You had to bring that back up.
No, but they pirated it a lot.
Because, although you're right, it is universally considered to be canceled before its time, but it's easy to love shows when they're taken away from us. And there's a small but vocal minority of Arrested Development fans that feel pretty strongly that the show was in a decline and that it was taken away from us before it had the opportunity to break our hearts. So I'm very excited that the creatives working on the show are amped and pumped to build this again for Netflix. And I'm curious to see what happens, but I'm not convinced it's going to be a financial or ratings or viewers bonanza for Netflix. I think it'll make a whole lot of noise, but I think it's going to be 2013 before we really know what...
On that same subject is I think that there's going to be, we'll know it's successful when you see the buzz in Twitter when, let's say, it comes out every Sunday night. When Sunday, it's like, oh, today is Arrested Development Day. Do you think that they have to worry about massive bandwidth problems with everybody streaming? Because they've never done time-sensitive content like this before, where there's been a specific release that everybody was anticipating coming to Netflix. And obviously, YouTube has gone through growing pains, and all these other providers, Hulu goes through growing pains with bandwidth. Is this anything Netflix needs to worry, or have they already pioneered the way, and we don't have to sweat that anymore?
It'll be edge cached, so I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll be.
You don't think it'll be an issue?
I think it'll be an issue when they first do it because somebody's going to screw something up somewhere.
Well, and everyone will want to see that first episode
That's right.
exactly the moment it comes out. But
I'd have to agree with Nicole. I think it was David Alan Grier, the comedian, who said in an interview when the whole Conan issue was happening that if half the people who were talking about Conan were watching Conan, he wouldn't be in the mess he was in.
Exactly.
And I think it's true. You're going to see a whole bunch of people talking about Arrested Development, but the same fans will watch it.
And Showtime passed on it. Showtime could have picked it up and said, you know, we're not as rating sensitive, and we can get a bunch of people to subscribe to Showtime if we get Arrested Development, but they decided not to. The thing about Netflix, I don't think they need to have massive ratings. All they have to do is get subscriptions. It's not like Showtime where people think, oh, I have to pay for this extra premium tier. They're saying, oh, it's $8 a month for a service that gives me lots of stuff. It's a different mindset that you could probably more easily sway people to say, oh, I'm going to sign up for Arrested Development, and then keep them even if they are disappointed with Arrested Development because they start using it for all kinds of other things.
In a way, it's like a Black Friday loss leader.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose money on Arrested Development, but all of your customers will come into the store and, oh, by the way, look at all this other content that you probably want.
That's not bad. It's not a bad parallel at all. I think it's a good point.
No, I
Now,
don't.
having said that,
it will. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Nope. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Nicole, go.
I think it will give them tremendous bragging rights. And one of the things that I heard a lot around the hallways of HBO was the phrase, we're not programming for ratings, we're programming for Emmys. And so I think if Netflix is sort of embracing the same idea that the secret to locking in and keeping subscribers is simply to deliver enough programming that they feel like they have to have it or have access to it just to participate in the conversation culturally that's happening, I think that may actually give them more lift than any actual subscribers or dollars are going to resonate with them.
By the way, that's very humble of HBO to have that phrase. In fact, I believe it's a new tagline. HBO, Emmys, bitches.
I actually ran into some acquisitions executives for both Starz, and they were together. Starz and HBO, this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I asked them about Netflix and what they thought. And you would have thought I had offended them in some way or run over their children.
Yeah.
But they were muttering.
What do you think of that
through their
serial killer in your neighborhood? Is what they heard.
Yeah, pretty much. Or I, became Brett Ratner for 5 seconds. But they just said, look, you can't tell us that you're not our competitor and then go and create original content. That doesn't really work because that's what we do.
Yeah. And Netflix can say whatever it wants. They are competing with Showtime, HBO, Starz, all those people. Absolutely. And they
now, real quick on that same subject, and I think we're all agreed that the biggest push for this, the biggest benefit is the PR benefit to win back the goodwill of the entire internet in one check. But and I can't remember if this is another story we have coming up, or if it was in one of those articles we already read. But apparently, part of the plan is for Netflix to tighten up its purse strings for a while.
Well, now Peter Kafka had this article on All Things D at the end of the day on Friday before the Arrested Development news broke, saying all the signs he's hearing, and he was reporting on J.P. Morgan analyst Doug Anmuth reporting that Netflix managers said they're done writing checks. They're not going to make any more big deals. They're not going to spend any more money on acquiring programming until next year. So their spend for 2012, which is what they have to pay for now, is over. Now, of course, that immediately was broken with Arrested Development, but it still could be true that that was just one that hadn't been announced yet. But they're done acquiring, which means none of these shows that they've commissioned are going to show until 2013. That's a whole year of you're watching what you've got right now.
Yeah, but keep in mind also that I'd lost my thought here. I had something that was going to be beautiful, it was going to blow your mind, and instead I'm just thinking about rabbits.
Yeah, rabbits are things with they're testing the 1 pixel contact lenses on. That's probably why you're thinking about that.
But I think that's actually that's what you're saying is true, and I think again that was a leak to Peter Kafka, specifically him, because everybody listens, and that was Netflix's way of telling the market, you know what, you can't keep asking us for money.
But then they go and announce. I mean, if that was a planned leak, it was a pretty poorly planned leak because they go and announce the rest of development like an hour later.
Well, and if you notice, that was Monday that it was
Yeah.
announced. So I think one foot didn't know what the other was doing.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think
I do remember my point now. My question was, how much of this? I mean, first of all, I suspect that this is purely out of necessity because how much liquidity did they lose as a result of the as their stock price taking a tank? I mean, how much? What, as a percentage, do we know how far they've dropped?
I don't. Yeah, it's a fairly large percentage, but that's stock price. That's not liquidity, right? That's
Well, okay. Well, yes, but I mean, like, as far as like, regardless of how much cash you're sitting on, when all of a sudden you lose half your value, you decide to allocate more of your cash to keeping the lights on as opposed to buying properties. I would imagine.
Well, there was an article today about them buying back stock and how they were buying back stock at the wrong time, and as the price has gone down from $200+ to whatever it's at 72 or so now.
I'd say about 70.45.
Would you?
If
If you
I
had to
had
guess
to say it, yes.
off the top of your Google?
Yes. Well, as a matter of fact, it is at the top of my Google.
That's been a bad idea. But that's different than their operating income. I think what's more hurtful than the stock price is cancellations, and they have seen churn, and they have seen a loss in subscribers, and that means they're not looking at an upward tick of revenue that can allow them to write some checks and know that the money's going to be pouring in.
But my gut would be that given the timing and given how long it takes to make these deals and certainly to commission and develop new products and franchises, my gut would be that what we're seeing now is not a reaction to sort of an emergency or pragmatic approach to handling the debacle this summer, but that this has been in the works for a long time. And we're just starting to see an indication of the new business model that Netflix seems to be rolling out that is about becoming a broadcast service provider or becoming a content provider with independent content and exclusive content and a subscription-based business different from the one they were in previously, which they could pretend to be innocently playing alongside, the Starz and the Showtimes and the HBOs and just offering another distribution mechanism. I think we're seeing the that is no longer at all part of their strategy.
You're going to treat us like competitors? Let's act like competitors.
Well, Darcy K in the chat room has a good question, which is, will this get new people that never had Netflix before? I mean,
I think Arrested Development could.
It very well could.
And even House of Cards could start to cause some buzz amongst people. They're like, hey, did you see that? Oh, no, I don't. I don't have Netflix. Oh, you really should sign up. I mean,
right,
I'm not guaranteeing it would, but it's the kind of show that might, given the names behind it. All right, we got to move on to our next big story. But first, I want to thank our sponsor.
And I
want to play it. I want to play it.
That 1,000. Congrats,
I know.
bro.
Hey, how was I supposed to know?
He wasn't. I changed it up on the fly. This episode of Frame Rate is brought to you by Ford, featuring Sync with My Ford Touch. Sync is the in-car communications, entertainment, and connectivity system that's voice-activated, and they've got something called Sync Services that give you audible turn-by-turn directions, so you don't have to install GPS in your car. You don't have to put aftermarket. You don't spend a lot of time dealing with updating DVDs. You use Sync for this. You say, how do I get home? And it takes you home. It tells you turn-by-turn directions. It shows you arrows on the screen. And you can actually plan your direction from Google Maps or MapQuest at home before you leave. So if you're headed on a trip somewhere, you're headed out for the holidays, right? And you're going to your aunt's house. You've never been there before. Plan it out on Google Maps. Figure out what that best route is. Save it to the Send to Sync feature, which puts it in your Sync Traffic Directions and Information Systems account. That's available in a free app called Sync Destinations. And then when you get in the car, you just say, take me to Aunt Melba's house. It pulls it up out of the account, loads it up, and you get your turn-by-turn directions. Pre-saved destinations to anywhere with Ford Text Nav Plus. You also get traffic updates sent to you by text message, mobile phone text message, and of course Sync can read your text messages to you. It's all designed to help you keep your hands on the road and your eyes on the wheel. No, wait, reverse that. It keeps your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road, because otherwise your eyes shouldn't be on the road or you're going to run over them. So keep that the way that you that keeps you safe with Ford. We appreciate their support of Frame Rate. Ford Sync with My Ford Touch is available on the 2012 Ford Focus and at Ford.com/technology. Again, we thank them for their support of Frame Rate.
All I'm going to say real quick, Tom, is you realize, they're releasing an API for this. So that means not only will it read your texts, but it will eventually, I assume, construct lies on your behalf while you're driving. Like, I meant to send it to you, but I'm just real busy feeding the homeless.
Ford Sync will do what you need it to do. It won't lie on its own, but if you
It
tell
won't lie.
it trusts
Dot, dot,
you.
dot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet.
Let's move on to another big story.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
So Starz has an answer to Netflix. It's talking about becoming a Netflix-like app. In fact, President Chris Albrecht announced yesterday that they will launch an application similar to HBO Go for various devices, including smartphones and tablets. That's big news in and of itself, but he indicated that customers might not even need a cable subscription to use
Now,
the
this is
service.
huge.
Yeah.
This is huge, and it also is right in line with everything that we've seen from Starz. First of all, Starz were the one who made the insane deal with Netflix, where they were obviously not getting paid a lot of money for all the top-notch content that they made available on Netflix, and eventually that deal broke down. But when I spoke to the folks at Starz at I think it was one of the Showstoppers events at CES, the one thing they were really frustrated with is that we talked about the content, and they're like, yes, that's Netflix getting all the brand value. We get none of it. What are we supposed to do in this deal? And I didn't have an answer. The only answer I had was like, make the world know that it's Starz content they're excited about, not just Netflix streaming. And it was obvious that even at whatever tier of the company was there at CS manning the booth, there was an inherent frustration that Netflix streaming was riding high on the success and popularity of the Starz content. Now, since they're already familiar with the environment of having their materials out there for streaming only, and obviously half the people watching it, most of the people watching it on Netflix streaming weren't Starz members as it was, then it makes perfect sense that they would be the pioneers, the people to take essentially what they did with Netflix streaming and just do it on their own. And I think this is a huge play. This is the cord cutter's dream come true, because if this works and this all of a sudden breathes in a lot of popularity for Starz, then you'll start to see online-only options from your HBO Go's and your other networks.
Exactly, and we should point out that some of the speculation would be that it would be an add-on to your ISP, so it would work like ESPN 360, which is an interesting twist to this. So instead of like Netflix, you have to fork over $8 a month. You would have certain ISPs that would either sell it to you as an add-on to your internet connection, or include it if you get like their fastest tier, you would get Starz included. So it becomes something to help the cable companies who are sitting there saying, we don't want to be dumb pipes. We want to have, tiered internet. We want to sell you services. But do we worry that this opens the door to network neutrality violations? It isn't in itself a net neutrality violation. It's just a different way of charging. But it is that sort of like, well, the cable company is now taking a cut of something, whereas with Netflix they don't. And would they then start favoring those services on their network?
Well, we do get into kind of a messy area here. Now, I tell you, as somebody who is a proponent of the outcome of net neutrality, if not the methodology currently proposed, I'm going to say that I would be okay with something like, Starz offering this as a $20 standalone package, and then and I like the idea of it being bundled with the highest tier of internet, because that strikes me as being closer to what Amazon's doing with Amazon Prime, where you're ostensibly buying a 2-day ship or next day shipping or whatever you get for Amazon Prime, but you also get all these free movies and television shows. I'd be okay with that. I mean, does that smell violating to you? Of net neutrality?
Well, what all this stuff, what all this stuff comes down to is, do they favor their own deal over other things? Do they say, we'll sell you a Starz subscription and it won't count against your bandwidth cap, or we'll sell you a Starz subscription and we're going to prioritize access, so Netflix may get choppy at 9 p.m. at night when everybody's using it, but Starz never will, because we prioritize the packets. They're not saying they're going to do any of that, obviously, but it does inch us closer to them being tempted to do it.
Well, that's the trying to bring those caps in to begin with. Just to establish those caps, they would love to be able to do that. And if they can do that and then start putting content inside that doesn't count against it, that's like a text message plan where if you text message your friends on AT&T, they won't count against your text message cap. It's the same concept.
That's why I'm for text neutrality.
Text neutrality. Okay.
Yeah. Which you could get on your Ford automobile.
Yeah, or using instant messaging.
Right. I was just going to say WhatsApp or Facebook or...
Right, exactly. Nicole, any thoughts on the Starz app? Do you like this idea? Are you scared of it?
Well, I think it's interesting that it's happening on Chris Albrecht's watch because remember, he was heading up original programming for HBO when they launched HBO Go. And he oversaw all of the digital efforts coming out of the West Coast team, which did HBO Go. So there seems to be a definite through line here of his commitment to offering a cross-platform, non-subscription or subscription-based service to distribute their content. But HBO Go was very, very clearly not made available to non-subscribers. So I've heard the rumors that you have, and I'm waiting to see. I would be very surprised if Starz made this available to non-subscribers, or if it was anything other than a few teaser episodes or 6 months free and then going to a Hulu Plus. I cannot wrap my head around the idea that Starz would imagine that wouldn't drastically devalue their base revenue line, which is their subscription business.
Well, and that's been with DirecTV, with HBO Go, with all of these other streaming services. You have to authenticate. And that's what he's indicating he might be. So maybe he's just testing how badly the cable companies will react, right?
Yeah,
will
exactly.
the MSOs just scream at this, even the rumor of this?
And I think you're absolutely right. I think they, you throw that rumor out there and see what happens. But I agree with you, Nicole. I don't see how you slice this apple, if that's a phrase. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it is now.
But yeah, I don't know how you do this if you are Starz, because you can't take off your MSOs like Time Warner and Comcast and all the other ones that are out there, and at the same time, you can't, as Nicole said, undercut yourself by giving it away without. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense.
This is the perennial problem of mega brands. Everybody thinks, for example, and you saw this. We'll take beer for example, right?
Let's do.
Yes, exactly. So Miller High Life is one of the #1 beers. They
Champagne of beers.
They want to create a light beer. So what they want to do, rather than establish a new brand, because starting a new brand is something very difficult. So what they do is they do a shortcut, and they say they call it Miller Light. So they get the Miller brand, but they also call it a light. So it's a subcategory. So instead of HBO, it's HBO Go. And at first, riding on the power of the Miller brand, you get a bunch of popularity for it. But then what happens is the snake starts to eat its own tail, and you turn all of your brand share, your value, from one brand over to another minor brand. And there are things you can't do. Your hands are tied. HBO Go can't laugh and mock HBO the way. Likewise, the same thing with Miller Lite can't laugh and mock at how fat you are for drinking a big old fat heavy Miller High Life, because it's another Miller brand, and it causes them to play with these kid gloves that ties the brand down and prevents it from getting as successful as it should be. What they should be doing is they should be investing in a completely separate new brand, the way they did with Hulu, because from a branding perspective, Hulu is able to, even though it's financed by the traditional networks, it's able to act like it's something different because they're launching a new brand. They're not calling it NBC Online. They're not calling it Fox NBC Friend Co. Online or whatever.
I think that Starz has hit on the only way they could get the cable operators to agree to this, which is you get to take a cut, you get to sell it, but they can't compete with Netflix on that basis unless they have better movies and better content that makes it worth a little bit of extra money. And I don't see Starz having that. I mean, Torchwood and Party Down aside.
Well, they're the ones that have, long-term deals with Sony and Disney.
For the movie side.
For the movie
right.
side.
Okay, that's a good point.
So, I mean, when you have those deals, and those are broadcast deals. Those are, I don't know, Nicole, you would know this, are they premium cable broadcast? I guess they are, because you have to pay extra for Starz, right? So they're premium cable broadcast deals. I guess really, technically, they're not supposed to be streaming that content over the internet during that window. So if they could kind of finagle that somehow, so that they not only have the premium broadcast cable rights, but also the streaming rights during that same time frame, that would be unheard of, but it would be amazing for Starz.
Yeah, I think the innovation is on the side of Netflix here, but Starz and HBO and all these companies should be doing more things like this. So, Mr. Albrecht, go for it. Make the cable companies agree, because you're going to save your industry by doing it. You're going to be left far behind if you don't. Let's move on to film. Now, we've talked in the past on Frame Rate about Ultraviolet, the DRM enterprise that's supposed to be transparent. You won't even know it's DRM. You buy a movie, you can watch it anywhere you want on any device you want, but it's having a little problem getting launched. Warner Brothers, the studio behind Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, is giving away coupon codes for the movie to Apple's iTunes store because people are unhappy about the way Ultraviolet works.
Now realize, understand, you're saying it's having a little bit of a problem. Understand, that is the equivalent of having a rental experience so horrific that somebody runs across the street and starts buying the movie from Best Buy to give it out because it's so bad. And I don't know. Actually, that's probably not true because they're probably rental codes now that I think about it.
Yeah, well, it's Flickster that's giving away the free iTunes downloads, and it's so telling because what we said was Ultraviolet sounds great on paper. If it does exactly what it's supposed to do, it would be brilliant. But DRM never works the way everyone wants it to. It always causes authentication problems. It has device incompatibilities, and that's exactly what people found with Flickster is it doesn't work. They're trying to play the movie, and it won't play, and it throws errors all over the place. And so their solution is, well, it's iTunes seems to have been doing this for a few years, so let's just give them coupons for the movie.
And I'll tell you what, it takes, and here's the thing, you don't realize what a giant, it's like playing craps at the table. You can win over and over and over and over again. It only takes one time of crapping out to totally lose someone from ever wanting to try your format again. I had that happen with when Amazon launched the Amazon Unbox. I started gobbling up the Prison Break.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it was great as long as I was at home at my computer. And then I went to my parents' place. I was like, this is great. I could get caught up on the series. And it was such a freaking nightmare to transfer ownership from one to another. And, well, I bought it on this computer, but I want to watch it on this computer. And it got me so angry that I to be honest, I haven't signed up for Amazon Prime. I haven't watched a single live streaming or streaming movie or television show off of Amazon Prime because I'm still so angry about the Amazon Unbox experience. So the damage for this is not just the people that it affects. This is a bruise that's going to last a very long time, and it's going to embitter more people against DRM in general.
Yeah, Nicole, when I was describing the Ultraviolet DRM, I saw you nodding along there.
No, I was really what I was nodding to was the idea that it only takes one negative experience with a new format before it entirely poisons the water. So I didn't have a personally negative experience. I've just heard about far too many to then actually embrace it and even try it for myself. So yeah, it seems like a rough start.
It's insanity. I mean, the industry constantly, the music industry and now the movie and TV industry have always said, look, we have to have DRM and we're going to make it work. And every time they try, it breaks and it doesn't work. Even iTunes DRM has its problems, although it's probably the best implemented of all of them. And it takes a long time for them to reach bottom and have that moment of clarity that they just, they have to get off the DRM crack. And they will make money, and it won't ruin their industry, but it's going to take a lot longer for them. They're so addicted to it with video.
It would be very nice if you could actually just sign up for Ultraviolet easily. Because trying to sign up for it and register your computer and register your disk takes 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes. And I've watched people give up on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's too complex.
Right, and the whole going through Flickster, who cares what Flickster is? And I know Warner Brothers owns it, and that's why they bought it, but it really is complicated. Just provide a disk with the file in it. But of course, if that happened, there'd be some joker out there that puts it on the internet, and that ruins it for everybody.
Now, talking about movies this weekend, you can't avoid talking about Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1, whether you want to or not. And the movie broke records for Fandango mobile ticketing.
All right, hold on. Under new FCC guidelines, I'm afraid you do have to disclose some information, Tom. Who selected this story to be in the lineup?
Well, I'm selecting it because it's a Fandango story about mobile ticketing, but I think what Brian is pointing out that I do own the movie in our NSFW show Frame Rate Winter Movie Draft.
FCC combination. They came together and said specifically Tom Merritt can't select a big story about how popular his movie Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1.
But you don't think it's a significant story that 22% of the tickets were sold via mobile devices? And that breaks the Harry Potter record from July.
Now, here's the thing, though. Do you think that that's a testament to the demographic that's going to see this show? Because we're looking at a lot of teenagers, people who have grown up never knowing standing in a line to get their tickets. They've only known showing up or, texting on their phone and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely has to do with that. And Harry Potter should have a young audience as well. So it's interesting to compare those two.
I think the difference might be, and this is pure speculation on my part, but it seems to me like Harry Potter tickets, that seems like a lot of families are going to go to that, and that means mom or dad are going to buy the tickets, whereas...
A lot of guys are going to go to Twilight, you're right. It's more of an action...
They're going by themselves. They're going... are not bringing their parents to the Breaking Dawn movies, is what I'm saying.
They're closet Twilight fans. Is that?
Oh yeah, the movie theater I saw it. All 50-year-old men.
Really? Okay.
Not
No
at all.
17. Okay.
Harry Potter held the previous record, though, at 20% on Fandango sales,
That's right. Yeah,
But
that's
then, this is a Fandango thing, and God bless them. I know those guys. They're really great guys, but they also every week they have to come up with another story. So this week's story is that that mobile ticketing is taking off. Well, of course it's going to take off.
It's only a 2% increase.
Yes, exactly. And mobile ticketing is now kind of just coming to the fore. So of course it's going to set a record with each new big blockbuster. That's going to be like that for a while.
But it's good SEO because they got Twilight in the title.
That's right. That's exactly what they're doing.
PlayStation got an update for PlayStation Home, and part of that update lets you watch free movies together with your PlayStation Home friends. You can watch Ustream and radio starting next month as well, but Crackle is now on the PlayStation Home network, so you can watch with other people who are also on the PlayStation Home network. Theoretically, you've got a bunch of friends in PlayStation Home, and when they're around, you go sit in the auditorium and you watch free Crackle movies as part of your PlayStation Home service.
What does Crackle have? I guess I'm looking at it now. I see
Ultraviolet, the movie. Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you, I'm much more excited about Ustream than anything else in this whole announcement, because Ustream is that's internet. That's what the internet is going to become. It's live, it's electric, it's unpredictable, and it's that's where you're going to see Occupy Wall Street coverage that's raw and unedited, and that's the part. This is a good announcement across the board. Don't misunderstand me. But out of everything they're saying, and of course they have a vested interest in playing up the Crackle angle, it's really the Ustream side of things that has me excited about this one.
Crackle angle is also known as the Krangle.
The Krangle.
Now let's finish off for film news with the trailer for a new Pixar movie that's coming out. I'm not going to say anything about it. Let's just watch the trailer, and then I want to talk about it. It's called Brave.
It stands 12 feet tall, with razor-sharp claws. His hide littered with the weapons of fallen warriors. His face scarred with one dead eye. I drew my sword and...
Chomp! Dad's leg was clean off!
Oh, that's my favorite part!
In accordance with our laws, the firstborn of each of the great leaders must prove their worth. Merida, stop! A lady enjoys elegant pursuits.
I present my only son. He took out a whole armada single-handedly. He was... With one arm, he was steering the ship.
I want my freedom.
But are you willing to pay the price your freedom will cost?
Careful what you wish for, my mother would say.
What's the worst that could happen? No more fighting! Show a little decorum! Feast your eyes!
If you had the chance to change your fate, would you?
All right, couple of things. First of all, nice hair. That's some good hair rendering right there.
Yeah, hair rendering has made a big jump forward.
Second of all, this looks like there was a baby between How to Train Your Dragon and Game of Thrones, and I just see little Arya Stark having her adventure trying to be a little boy.
Little Shrek in there too.
Little Shrek.
Yeah, I guess with Shrek as well.
Well, it's the voice.
I actually have some serious comments on this, but I want to know your thoughts first.
It's the accent that you're
It's a bunch of
to.
Scottish accents.
That's right. I mean, Craig Ferguson is getting a ton of work because of movies like when you think about it. I'm surprised they went for a Scottish accent. I mean, it's hard for kids to understand accents that aren't, which I guess in Scotland it is their own accent, but
in Scotland they just call it hearing things.
Right, exactly. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I would agree with you. It did immediately call out How to Train Your Dragon because of the accents and because of the time period. It also called out Braveheart.
I find myself for the first time ever kind of bristling because over the last 10 years, Pixar had an early dominance in all of the animated features, and I've been a Pixar fan since the very first Toy Story, and even before then when they were doing Listerine commercials. I was a big fan of computer animation in general, and Pixar has nailed storytelling for a very long time, whereas DreamWorks seemed to be like, just cashing in properties. But somewhere around How to Train Your Dragon, I was like, wow, DreamWorks is just Pixar that doesn't insist on making you cry in the first act. And I loved, capital L-O-V-E-D, How to Train Your Dragon so much that I find myself just a little bit kind of bristling to see Pixar. I was like, look, man, you got the whole world. You invent worlds. Why you got to go looking like you're going to crowd in on DreamWorks' turf here? This is kind of killing me.
Nicole, what do you think?
I absolutely agree with Brian. I watched this trailer when it came out, and I was very excited about it because I had high hopes, and I also immediately thought, I think somebody said Braveheart, which I thought, but I thought about How to Train Your Dragon, which I also absolutely loved, and I thought this is the first I've seen that feels both derivative and like possibly formulaic.
Yeah.
And given the disaster that was Cars 2, I'm starting to develop a few concerns about who's leading the kind of narrative and creative development movement over at Pixar.
Post Steve Jobs era.
Well, I don't necessarily know whether, because it wasn't, Steve Jobs was out of it when they sold to Disney, so he wasn't really a part of their.
He's on the board, though.
He was on the board, but I don't think he was sitting in on story meetings.
Anything.
All right, but I want to know.
It's a bunch of FUD. You're right.
Yeah.
But
Tom clearly has an opinion since he set all of this up and has not opened his mouth once yet. What do you got to say about this, Tom?
I just wanted to see if you guys agreed with me, and it sounds like most of you do. I just was nonplussed. It was the first time I've looked at a Pixar trailer and not wanted to see the movie.
Okay, now, keep in mind, I don't think this will be anywhere near as bad as Cars 2 was received. Because
it doesn't
while
look
it is
bad. You're right. I
don't want to say it's cliched. It's certainly a familiar motif of a girl wants to do a boy's job.
But formulaic, like Nicole said. It's sort of like I've seen Pixar do all these tricks before.
But like the original Cars was extraordinarily formulaic. It was Doc Hollywood with Cars, but it was delightful. It was note for note perfect. There was not a single moment in the original Cars that was not a lot of fun and bright and colorful and exciting. There's no reason they can't do this again with Brave. I just don't understand what they have to make me, because there's more How to Train Your Dragons movies coming out, and now they're going to be face to face with each other.
Maybe it's just a bad trailer, because I remember not being excited about Cars either, frankly.
Well, okay, and keep in mind also, my experience with Cars is colored by the fact that my daughter was 3 when we went to go see it, and it was the biggest surprise, utterly delightful. Got choked up at times.
You are part car.
I am 1/3 robotic, and I wish you hadn't outed me on that. This is actually physically attached to me. This is my third arm.
Well,
to be fair, I can't be unbiased about Cars either, because Doc Hollywood is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's my secret shame. So yeah, I absolutely saw the connection, and I loved it in part for that reason. So it's not a totally critical viewpoint I hold either.
Well, to your point, both Tom and Brian, to your point of why are they being derivative? Those stories, both How to Train Your Dragon and Brave, were in development at the same time.
Okay.
But now, who's in charge of story over at Pixar these days? Well, John Lasseter is. What else is he doing? He's running an entire animation division at Disney. So, and if you look at Cars 2, you really see the impact of not minding the store. And really kind of
maybe running out of ideas a little bit, or not running ideas, but not having enough time to really incubate them.
Well, right, and his whole thing...
falling back on some things that have worked for him before.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually have heard him speak in the past, he's very strict about the story and getting the story right. And it really works when it works well. I mean, Toy Story 3 is a perfect example of that. But when he's kind of off running the studio, you can see what happens with Cars 2. And I think he's going to have to make a decision very soon. Is he a filmmaker, or is he an executive? Because being both doesn't work.
It's such a good point. The phrase "not minding the store," it sounds exactly right. It sounds exactly like what's happening. Cars 2 is what happens when you take a very successful franchise and you just sort of turn the crank to get a second film out without protecting the story and protecting the integrity of your characters and the way that you manage that narrative. And it feels as though maybe somebody's taken their eye off the ball.
All right, let's finish our Film Found segment with a check-in on the winter movie draft. There we go. Jeez. So the winter movie draft, of course, Twilight, Breaking Dawn, Part 2, $147.9 million. Launches me from last place into second place. Brian Brushwood at the top with $234 million. But Brian, you're headed for your last movie this weekend with Arthur Christmas.
I think my kiss of death was the underperformance of what was the one that just came out? The sequel, Happy Feet 2, didn't do nearly as well as it was projected. So that's bad news for me. I got to say, Tom, I think you're going to run away with this because I think that you're looking at your first movie topping out at around $300 million, and I just don't see how you could fail. As long as you make $150 million with your remaining 2 or 3 movies, I think you're going to run away with this.
Yeah, I got 2 more movies. We'll see, though. Sarah's got Hugo coming out this week. That's a Scorsese film. Right? Am I right about that?
Yeah,
that is Scorsese. Yeah. Okay. I know Spielberg has Tintin, right?
That's right.
I'm always trying to switch those up in my head. But yeah, Hugo is Scorsese, and that comes out this weekend as well. Sarah Lane in last place right now. She needs.
Well, she doesn't have any movies.
All she had is Rum Diary at $12 million. For goodness sake. Yeah, I mean, that's like having no movies at all.
She brought out all the big hits. I mean, she essentially did. You're right. A couple of comments. First of all, on Tintin, I think Tintin will do phenomenally well internationally, but we're only playing with U.S. domestic dollars, and I don't think Tintin has the brand value here in America. I think it'll actually surprisingly disappoint or underperform. And then let me say one other thing real quick. There's one person on Twitter who said he loves frame rate, but he hates the movie draft talk. Look, man, we got to talk about the movies coming out anyway. This is just a fun way where 600 people are currently competing. I think it's 650 people are competing right now at draft.nsfwshow.com. So everybody gets to play along, and it gives us a vehicle to have our conversations be about more than the movie itself, but about a little bit of smack talk as well.
I like it. I personally like it. If you don't like it, we apologize. I'm having a blast with it, especially since I just made $147 million on Breaking Dawn. Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. You want to start an anti-winter movie draft site? You want to start a pro-Breaking Dawn site or a campaign to get people to go watch Hugo? Do it right now. You can do it in seconds at Squarespace.com. Easy to use UI, optimized for both beginners and CSS experts. Hundreds of design templates. They just added a bunch of design templates. If you haven't checked Squarespace lately, go take a look. The sites look better than ever, and you get 24/7 support if you need it. It's so easy, you're probably not going to need it. But if you want to do something really intricate or nifty or creative or innovative, you can just call them up. Hey, how do I do this? How do I put in a form? How do I integrate my Flickr? It's all there. Check it out, Squarespace.com. Absolutely free. No credit card needed to try it. Go do it right now. If you do decide to keep the service, though, you get 20% off for 6 months when you use the offer code FrameRate11. That's FrameRate11. We thank Squarespace for their support of FrameRate. Time for Tube Tops. Just out today, Samsung apparently in last stage talks with Google to launch a Google TV-based device. Yu Bu Kin, president of Samsung's TV division, told Reuters today not only that they were in the last stage talks, but that it was going to be very different from what the competitors are doing. So let's quickly do our speculation around the board here. Sony's done a Google TV television. Logitech Review has been the set-top box. What could Samsung do that is so different?
A Walkman.
Wait, what did you say?
You said a Walkman.
Oh, wait, no, that's Sony.
That is Sony.
I'm going to have to take that joke back and wait for a Sony.
Yeah.
Sorry
about that.
Well, I mean, first of all, the first thing they could do is sell units. Hi-oh.
We're going to do something very different. Make a product people want.
Yeah. Let me say this. First of all, I have a Samsung television. I have 2 of them now. And one thing that it's obvious is that they want to focus on internet connectivity. They've been in the internet bandwagon trying to run their own thing. The problem is that the UI is slow and chunky and underpowered. And I hope that the Google TV platform allows them to create a more powerful TiVo-like interface. You've heard me on this show talk for years about how I wish that we were where my TiVo was back in 1999 with most of these interfaces, but they're absolutely abysmal. And I'm hoping that that's what they're going to do is focus on the aesthetics and have it be well-powered so everything's butter smooth like Apple. My hope is they're trying to beat Apple to the Apple TV experience.
So in other words, they're going to infringe on Apple's patents again.
Yes, because Apple has a patent on smooth and or awesome, the patent.
Smooth and or...
And after last week, geolocation, geo-targeting as well.
A method and system for making things smooth and awesome is the name of the patent. Nicole, do you have any guesses on what they could do to differentiate themselves?
Well, I think the obvious winner in this conversation is Walkman.
Obviously, a small. Well, it would be. What was the TV version of the Walkman?
The Watchmen.
Watchman. Thank you.
The Watchman.
And it would come with a free movie, Watchmen. Okay, that one didn't work. See, now you feel better?
Much better, yes.
Let's move on to the Sling Player app making its way to the Boxy Box, and it's coming to Google TV as well. Boxy now making it so you can sling your television to the Boxy. So essentially, watch TV from one room in another room just by putting a Boxy app.
Or from like 4 inches away. I mean, why? I don't understand. Why do you need this? Exactly.
Well, they got rid of the Sling Catcher, which took video off of your computer and put it on the TV.
I didn't know
so
that.
This is a way for Sling apps to appear on Sling Catcher-like devices without Sling having to make the device.
Okay, that's a smart move then.
Now, real quick, does Boxy have built-in parental controls for all the content, especially on the internet side of things? Because this seems like the type of solution that I could put a Boxy box upstairs for the kids and then have them watch all the content from the main DVR in the living room. But the problem is putting a Boxy box is like giving a main line to the internet to my 7-year-old, and that concerns me.
Yeah, I don't know if they have any good parental controls or not. That's a good question.
That's a really good.
Let's think about that. Boxy. Don't you want parental controls?
Get Abner on the line.
What is Brian going to do, Abner?
But I'll tell you, this is a Pandora's. Forgive me. This is a
Pandora's
box
the other guy. Abner does Boxy.
The Pandora's Boxy of problems because if most of these things, like for example, all of Revision 3's content, I don't think we necessarily have any kind of generic tag on TWiT content indicating what's adult content and what's safe for families or whatever. And there's the only way for Boxy to do that would be to go and have some kind of board that individually rates things, and they don't want to get in that business either. So for now, I think we're going to be in this amorphous, mushy middle until somebody steps up and makes a standard.
Okay, let's check out a new HBO preview. Now, they're doing some smart things here with Game of Thrones, putting up a preview to the making of Game of Thrones, but it gives you lots of little looks at the different things coming in Season 2 of Game of Thrones. We're not going to play the whole thing, but we can just, show some of it here. Again, it's a behind the scenes, so you're going to see a lot of cameras, a lot of interviews with the people making it, but in between, little snippets. Everybody's paying attention to that. They're not paying attention to the making of. They're paying attention to, like, who are they shooting? Who's in it?
You know what's funny is I totally did not. All I did was be like, oh, she's back, he's back, he's back, she's back. And meanwhile, I was listening to the narrative. And I think this is the right angle for them to play because, don't show me, show the show. Because it was around this time last year that we started seeing the early footage that had me so excited for Season 1 of Game of Thrones. And I got to tell you, man, this was good fuel for the fire. It got me just as excited as I hoped it would.
I just noticed Natalie Dormer.
As who?
She's Marjorie Tyrell.
Oh.
You might remember her from such productions as The Tudors.
All right, no, I don't because I don't watch that. But the cat with the
She's getting typecast.
Was that Renly?
Yeah.
Was that Lord Renly?
See, now you're doing it. Yeah, you're like, hey, wait, is that Renly? What? Oh, is that Arya? That's Arya all dirty. Yeah.
Was that Stannis?
That might have been Stannis.
Wait, who's
actually.
the stick figure?
There's
There you
Natalie.
go. That's Stannis Baratheon. Gotcha. See, I don't know. I pictured Stannis a little more, I don't know, stone-faced. I picture Ricky Jay as Stannis Baratheon for some reason.
Anyway, check out the preview video. HBO's got it up. You can find it on IO9 all over the net. Final piece of tube tops here for you UK and Canada viewers and listeners. You're getting the Roku early next year, and it's going to come with BBC and local channel. Well, BBC maybe not in Canada, but it's going to come with channels that you can watch. So check it out. Roku coming. No hard dates, but it says it's going to have bundled-in channels and come into the UK and Canada after the first of the year. So there you go. Who says we never say good things about what's happening in UK and Canada?
Well, you just now.
Time for what we're watching. And Brian. I think we should cut out the part where I say "am Brian" because that always throws me off. I'm like,
You always
I'm
think
not
like-
talking.
Why am I saying
Why
that?
are words coming out of my mouth? So, Walking Dead, without spoilers, got its mojo back this weekend.
Well, without spoilers, all I can say, you know what? This is a spoiler. Spoiler alert. Apparently, Frank Darabont was not the magic sauce that makes for good episodes.
That's
the spoiler I have for you. Because I sure enjoyed, I almost said a curse word, I surely enjoyed this last episode of The Walking Dead. It's the first one in Season 2 since the very first one that I thought had the series back on track. Stuff happened. Characters said things that mattered. There were zombies.
Carl put on the hat.
in a lot of the last one. What was that?
Nothing.
What did you say?
I said hat. Carl put on the hat.
Oh, yes.
That was
indeed.
big for me. That's not really a spoiler.
He's been wearing that hat before. He's been wearing that hat a bunch.
No, but we hadn't seen him with it on for a while. That's,
okay, all right.
That's iconic to me. Sperling, what are you watching?
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand the Chinese you were speaking.
Wait, do you not watch The Walking Dead?
I actually TiVo all of them until the end of the season. For some reason, I've got like 13 of them now, or 12 of them now.
Get ready for a roller coaster, then.
But I have been watching. I saw a great movie called Margin Call, which is worth seeing.
I've heard some good things about that.
It's fantastic. It's out in I think 170 theaters. And at the same time on VOD. So if you can see it in a theater, do it. If not, it's on VOD for $7.
Excellent.
So, but Up All Night is pretty good. Raising Hope, of course, is still doing well and pretty good. Terra Nova, I'm still watching, yet I do not know why.
I gave up. I quit.
I was ready to quit after the second episode.
Yeah.
I still don't know what the show is about or why I'm watching it. It's trying to be Lost, and you can kind of see how difficult Lost is.
Maybe Lost World.
Yeah, well, because the dinosaurs. Good point. Yeah, I mean, so I would say Up All Night is probably the show I would recommend most.
Nicole, how about you?
Well, I've been going back and watching all of my DVR'd episodes of Community because my heart was absolutely broken when I heard it was yanked from the schedule. In my opinion, it's the best new sitcom that I've seen in years. I think Dan Harmon is a genius. It was so smart and so layered and nuanced, and it's only better on repeat viewings. So if you didn't watch Community while it was airing the first time, take this opportunity to catch up. I think I can't imagine anybody who's a fan of television and formats wouldn't appreciate it, and then hopefully we'll see it hit the schedule again. And then also, my personal favorite show that's airing right now after Community is The Vampire Diaries. But that's left me until January. So I'm a little bit at loose ends, and I think I'm finally going to start watching The Wire.
Well, what do you think about, what's the name of that show? Parks and Recreation. Uh-huh. Do you like that?
I love Parks and Recreation. I feel like it really found its feet last season, and it's come into its own. I think it's now a very, very strong contender for the best show on television.
Well, what about Two Broke Girls? Because that's, kind of been a buzzed about sitcom.
I can't get through 5 minutes of that show.
Okay, yeah, it's a love it or hate it kind of show.
I love Kat Deely, and I lived in Williamsburg until 3 months ago, so I'm the target audience for that show, and it absolutely sets my teeth on edge. The only new show I like less than that and Whitney is The New Girl, and I can't even.
I like The New Girl. I mean, it's candy. There's no. But as far as like turning something on to surf the web, and laugh a couple of times. I love Zoe Deschanel. So
yeah, it's great. I think guys like it more than girls.
Because of Zoe.
Guys like Zoe Deschanel more than girls.
Not my wife. My wife is in love with New Girl. She loves the show. But let me real quick give you the talk about The Wire. How firm a commitment do you have to The Wire? Because I don't think you understand. I spent a full season not understanding why I was still watching episode after episode. It was like I started for 10 hours beating my head against a wall filled with spikes injected with pain serum.
I'm sorry, are you talking about Terra Nova again? I'm so sorry.
About The Wire. But by the end, it was like, this is the greatest television experience I've ever had, and it fundamentally changes my beliefs and understanding of the world around me. Like, I'm just saying, don't give up. Plow through it like homework until you get to the end.
I liked it from the beginning.
It
definitely got better in the second season, but I liked it first season.
I appreciate that. I will take that to heart, Brian. I plan on seeing it through.
Okay, anybody watch Psych? Do you watch Psych?
No.
That's actually a really fun show. For pop culture enthusiasts, I mean, it's filled with one pop culture reference after another.
I'm still watching Fringe and Walking Dead. Those are the two main shows that I'm watching. I started to catch back up on Sanctuary, which is a good show that I just let build up on the DVR. I actually started catching up on Ringer.
Oh, wow.
Because I got a little bored with it. And, watching 2 or 3 in a row, I was like, okay, I can see the storyline is much more compelling now. When you watch it an hour at a time, it's not enough in each show to keep you going.
I also...
who doesn't like Sarah Michelle Gellar?
I was so excited after the Netflix.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear it. I was just going to say, I was so excited after the Netflix announcement. I did go back and start watching Arrested Development, and I actually think I might plow through the whole series again because I forget how great it is, nested within jokes, and perversely, I think I am going to start plowing through Community, assuming it's available on Netflix instant streaming, because weirdly, the fact that it's about to be taken away excites me to want to experience it.
Yeah, it's the best thing you can do for a show is cancel it. These days.
Am I the only one watching American Horror Story?
Yeah, I've been told to watch that. Eileen started watching it, but I haven't started in yet. I hear it's great.
I'll be curious to hear what you think. I absolutely love the pilot, and I'm sticking with it. And there are moments that I think are sublime and inspired, and there are moments that are so clunky and ridiculous. And I'm afraid it's ambitious and it might, stumble. But right now, I'm really enjoying it. I think you would like it.
And I would agree with precisely what you're saying about that. That the pilot was great, and then the second episode was kind of okay, and now it's kind of it's intermittent. I would agree.
All right,
but it's Jessica Lange on television, so it's a must-see.
Oh, that's true.
Let's finish up with Interferon. Interferon always gets the shaft because it's at the end of the show. We don't have time to discuss two of these stories, but I'll just let you know. No NBA season in sight, but Google Plus is going to live stream 2x2, 2-on-2 exhibition games with big NBA stars like LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul. So kind of like a huge Google hangout of LeBron James playing 2-on-2. It's going to be on Google Plus of all things. And Annoying Orange, I don't know if anybody knows this show, but it's a YouTube hit.
We all know it. We all just look the other way. We're like, oh.
And it has now gotten a deal with Cartoon Network to be a regular animated 30-minute cable television show. So, another example of something jumping from the web to TV. But I want to save time for Old Murder House Theater presents Aliens on Ice, the most important story in Interferon.
Okay, this is not really an Interferon story outside of the fact that you can see this footage if you go look. Just search Aliens on Ice, Old Murder House Theater. They're located here in Austin, and I want to kill myself that I haven't seen them live yet. They've done live versions of RoboCop with giant cardboard cutout ED-209s, Back to the Future, a whole bunch of other shows, but they recently got an old ice rink that was about to go out of business, and they got it for one more night so they could present James Cameron's Aliens on Ice. So then, at this point, Newt and Ripley start dancing around. The alien skates around, but then the big moment comes when all of a sudden, wait for it.
Xenomorph on ice. Oh, wait. That is brilliant. I like that she's being pushed out by someone.
Seriously, how great is this? This is the greatest concept in my entire life. I just want to watch this so bad. I want to see it live, but I highly recommend you go check out Old Murder House Theater stuff.
All right. I want to thank everybody for listening and watching. Thank you, Jay Sperling Reich from Showbiz Sandbox, for coming on the show, for coming all the way up to Petaluma.
Oh, my pleasure.
To be on the show.
It's great to be
Let
here.
folks know not only about Showbiz Sandbox, but all the things you do online.
Showbiz Sandbox is a weekly entertainment news show like Meet the Press, but without politics. It's got entertainment journalists talking about the top entertainment news stories of the week. Can be found on Showbiz Sandbox or showbizsandbox.com. And I'm on Twitter. Sperling is the username to look up.
Excellent. Check it out, folks. He knows what he's talking about. You should know that by the end of this show. Also, Nicole Carrico, thank you so much for sharing your insights from the industry, and let folks know what you're up to and where they can find you online.
Well, at the moment, what I'm up to is vacationing in Florida for my family reunion. So
where can
to
they
all
find
my
you in Florida?
Fort Myers. And to all my new Twitter followers, I apologize. Usually my feed contains more than grousing about my relatives, and soon it will return to social television and better topics, I promise. But I'm Mullatini on Twitter, and my home on the web is on About Me, just Nicole Carrico. And it was great to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Don't forget to email us. We didn't have time to get to the feedback today, but we'll double up on it next week, I promise. framerateshow@gmail.com is the email address. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/FR. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.